Hey Mountaineer fans, welcome to SVC Sports Weekly. I'm Mike Nosek alongside head baseball coach Dave Gage. Dave got some men's volleyball action from last week that we're going to get to. And then we'll talk to you and pick your brain about this upcoming baseball season, see where you think the team is at and where it is headed. So, as mentioned, men's volleyball, 3 matches last week. Played some pretty tough competition. 2 of the top 3 teams in the conference. They started with a 3-0 loss against Endicott College here on their home court, and then fell 3-2 to Newberry before losing to Endicott at Endicott 3-0 this past Saturday. So obviously not the ideal week, very tough competition. Kind of shows you where you're at this point of the season. And Newberry, they were up 2-0 and kind of let that one get away from them.
Yeah, if you want to talk about the Newberry game here first, like you said, it was 2-0. We played really well, and then all of a sudden, Newberry got a little bit of confidence back at the end of the second game. They were actually leading, I believe, in the second game. We came back, and then you sort of think of as a fan at that point, oh well, we won that one. Now it's sort of over, and Newberry took the momentum and won Game 3, won Game 4, and ended up winning Game 5 as well.
Yeah, as you mentioned, they kind of got that momentum, and the Mountaineers had a tough time battling back once Newberry started clicking on all cylinders, and unfortunately, just let it get away from them. I'm sure that's one match that they would like to get back and show that they could have captured that win, but they'll have their chance when they visit Newberry again. Unfortunately, as we mentioned, they faced Endicott both times, on their season schedule in a matter of 5 days, and not the most ideal result by any stretch in those 2 matches.
Yeah, that's what's tough when you play the same team, within a week, is you can't tell, hey, do we get better? Like we've talked about on last week's show where, this team plays Springfield 3 times, so by that 3rd time, a month later, you're like, hey, did we get better or not? In this one, if you're having a bad week, which they sort of, that's what happens in sports, is sometimes you just have bad weeks. And I think last week was that instance with our men's volleyball team. It was the wrong week to have a bad one because you played Endicott twice, who was a pretty good team, and and Newberry proved that they're a pretty decent team as well.
Yeah, you mentioned it. Endicott, it's a good team, but I didn't think that they were head over heels above the Mountaineers. You might have been able to take a set here or there, and again, you go back to, well, what did we do wrong? What could we have improved upon? And they have still, over a month here left to go to try to fix those things and get to the point where they can take a couple sets, if not beat a team like Endicott.
Absolutely. This is a short glimpse of something. In this 1 week, there's still a lot of games to be played on the men's volleyball side of things, including this week, another conference game, and again, back at home. But there's no reason to panic here for the men's volleyball team. They're a very good team. They just have to, get a little more consistent, and I think they can find themselves into the playoffs again for like they were last year.
Now they'll have to do a little bit of work to get into those playoffs. With last week, they fall to 2-4 in the conference, and that pushes them down to 5th. Top 4 make the playoffs. So again, got to do some work to get over the Newberries or possibly Elms, who currently sits at number 3 in the conference and comes in here tomorrow night. So that's not, a season-making match when the Blazers come in for a 7 o'clock start, but it's one where they almost need.
Yeah, they do need it. 1 for confidence, and 2, like you said, to get a little bit better look into that playoff picture. But it is definitely a game that'll help confidence, if nothing else. I mean, Elms is a team that ended up winning the conference tournament last year, so they are going to have their hands full if they don't come ready to play.
Yeah, the Blazers will come in at 9-7 on the season, 3-2 in conference. They beat Newberry 3-2 back on February 23rd. Knocked off Regis and Leslie. Fell to Daniel Webster 3-2. Fell to Endicott 3-2. So this is a team who can play, and I think the SVC guys are really ready to go and get back on the winning streak. But they're going to have to play, at the top of their game in order to do so.
Yeah, and absolutely. But I think if they can maybe get a little bit of momentum here in that early game, maybe in Game 1, and get a good fan group out there tomorrow night, maybe they can run away a little bit here, because yeah, like you said, they did take a couple sets off Endicott, but also Newberry took a couple sets off them. We took a couple sets off Newberry. So maybe, if you want to play the matchup game, A versus B versus C deal, you never know what you're going to see tomorrow night.
Again, Elms College comes in for a 7 p.m. start. That is Tuesday. And we'll host the Blazers then. And then later in the week, the Mountaineers go down to Ramapo College, alma mater of head coach Joshua Stokes. And that's quite a drive. 3 p.m. start for them down in New Jersey. And hopefully they can grab one for their overall season percentage there. So with volleyball in the books, I think we'll head over to the spring sports. Unfortunately, it seems like every day that we walk outside, a little more snow falls, and it's not allowing you guys to get outside onto your field. But how do you think the practices in the gymnasium have gone over the last few weeks?
They've went well. We have very good practices at times, and we have some not so good practices at times. But I think you can expect that from a team, with a lot of freshmen and a lot of sophomores. But it's not something that we as a coaching staff are going to accept. But I think overall this team has a lot of energy every day at practice. They work hard and they compete, and that's what we ask them to do, is just compete for spots. And they do a very good job of buying into the system.
Now, the team was selected to finish 7th in the coaches' preseason poll in the conference. For those of you who don't know, there are 7 teams in the conference on the baseball side. So, last place. I mean, does that give you guys sort of any momentum, being the underdog as you go forward here?
I don't know. I can't really speak of where other coaches think about us. It's something that's great for the fans, the preseason polls. But as far as we're concerned, we go into every game prepared the same way. Whether we're playing the team that was picked first or whether we're playing the team that was picked 6th, we prepare to win. And so I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, we're the underdog. People are going to take us lightly. I don't think anyone's going to take us lightly. Everybody knows that we have talented ball players. It's just if we can put it together. We're coming off a rough season for our program. We got to make it back to what we're capable of.
Now, you're returning 17 players from last season, but you also have a big core group of freshmen, some sophomore, junior transfers. How do you think that mix of experience and age is going to fare you this season? I
think our breakdown between years, is very good. You're talking 8 seniors, which is great because they have that, senior leadership style, especially for a group with a lot of sophomores and a lot of freshmen who are ready to get at it. Every day, these guys are guys that played every single day last year, and they don't want to sit the bench. So they push the guys that are a little bit older than them, or push the guys that maybe might be the starter and make that starter better. So I think the way we break down between freshmen to seniors is going to be a positive for us.
Now the Mountaineers take to the road and head down to Fort Myers, Florida, March 16th through 22nd, kind of the spring training trip that you guys usually take, whether it's Florida or Arizona. This year is a little different as you start with a doubleheader at Emerson College before you leave. That game is actually coming up a week from Wednesday. How do you think that might affect the trip where you're going to already have competition under your belt going down there?
I think, it's something that we had to do because spring break is a little bit later. Last year, spring break at Southern Vermont was this week. We were in Arizona 365 days ago. So it's something that we had to do, but I think it's also going to help us because a lot of the other New England teams that are down there at that time, it's their first game. Whereas for us, we're going to have 2 under our belt. We'll be outside a few times because right now it looks like unless we want to go out in the snow and play with snowshoes, we're not getting outside. But, it's on a turf field, so I don't think it's going to be a major effect on us, but I think it's going to be good for us to play a little bit in New England before we go south.
Now, once you guys come back, you start, Norwich comes in March 27th. You start the conference schedule March 29th when you visit Newberry College. How do you think you're going to fare in the conference, especially against teams like the 2012 champion Daniel Webster, who was selected to finish first in that preseason poll?
I think, we're as good as anyone, but I think anyone's as good as us. If our team plays the way we're capable of playing and we play good defense, we know we can hit, we know we can pitch. It's just we got to be able to play defense. And that's, if we can play defense, we can play with anybody. And Daniel Webster's going to be good. I think Newberry and Becker were picked second and third. They're pretty good. And, we'll go all the way down the list. There's not a team in our conference that isn't a good team. You got to play your best game. You can't go in there and just throw the gloves on the field and expect to win. So if we come ready to play each day, I have a lot of confidence in this team. Like I said, there's a lot of seniors that want to go out on a positive note. And that's the great thing about always having 8 seniors. They don't want to end their career going on a bad season. So they're going to push everybody, and I think we match up really well in the conference. But we'll see. We'll see where we're at.
As I mentioned, non-conference opponents include Norwich University in the home opener on March 27th, Salve Regina on April 2nd, and Wesleyan University April 24th. So as the season progresses and you kind of go in and out of that conference schedule, you're going to be facing some pretty quality opponents who are definitely going to help you, I think, against those conference teams. Am I wrong in thinking that?
No, absolutely. I think with our conference only being 5 years old now, you got to realize there's teams out there like Nosek schools, Wesleyan, Williams, who are going to help you play better on the weekends. And the other thing is you got to challenge those teams, because at the end of the day, our goal is to make the NCAA tournament. And if we make the NCAA tournament, we're going to be playing a top 5 team in the country. And I think that's where those games against Wesleyan, Williams, College of Worcester down in Florida are going to help us out if we're lucky enough to make that run and make the NCAA tournament.
Well, I know that Mountaineer fans listening are certainly rooting for you in your first year at the helm of the Mountaineers. And as we mentioned, next Wednesday you start the season down at Emerson. So 2 weeks from today, we'll be hopefully talking about a couple wins and starting the season off on the right foot. Stay tuned as we welcome softball head coach Leanne Baker to discuss how they were selected in the preseason poll and how she is expecting the team to fare in the 2013 season. Welcome back to SVC Sports Weekly. We are sitting next to head softball coach, Leanne Baker. I usually say next to head baseball coach David Gage, but he's already in the room. Leanne Baker, her 3rd year at the head of the Mountaineer softball team. Leanne, how are you doing today?
I'm excellent. How are you?
I'm very good. Thank you for joining us. And let's, talk about the season. How has the preseason gone? How is the team looking? What are your expectations? What are the team's expectations of themselves?
Playoffs.
Playoffs.
That's it.
That's something that you haven't gotten to in your time here at SVC.
Nope, not yet, but I think this is the year. The team thinks this is the year. We're in our 5th week of preseason, and they're working hard.
Now, what do you think are the key things that you'll see from this group that you haven't seen in the past 2 years when you didn't make the playoffs?
Confidence. We actually have softball players on the team as opposed to people that try really hard. We have people that have been playing softball their whole life. And that might sound mean, but it's not. It's the truth.
Now, it's a pretty young squad, if I'm not mistaken. You lost Alyssa Davis, one of your better players from last year. How do you think this young team is going to be able to mesh together and produce wins for you?
Well, we haven't really lost Alyssa. She's our assistant coach, and I believe she provides great leadership that way. And I think that this team is going to be better without her on the field, because they're going to find ways to score runs that they would have relied on her for earlier.
Now talk a little bit leadership-wise. I mean, I was able to have your interviews with your captains and such, and they're very mature young ladies. And why don't you talk a little bit about them and how great they're going to be for you?
Well, Megan Fleming, she's a transfer. She came from Utica, and her twin sister is Emily, and she applied for captain. And you know what? She's a catcher. She's done very well. When the team is out of control at practice, she finds a way to bring them back together and get them to focus again. Rachel Robtoy is our positive force on the field. She can make anything negative into a positive. That goes with personalities, just anything in general.
Now, you mentioned the Flemings. You also have the Russ sisters. Now, how does having two sets of sisters on a team impact the overall chemistry, for better or worse?
You know what? The chemistry on this team is really great. They're all friends off the field, and they're starting to click together on the field, which is nice. Vanessa and Natalie have a special relationship. They're best friends. Emily and Megan are best friends as well. But both sets of twins have a good balance on how to be sisters, how to be friends, and how to be teammates. So they're not afraid to tell each other when they're doing something wrong.
Certainly nothing wrong with that. If I remember my interactions with my brothers growing up, which were plenty, don't get me wrong. Now you guys start with your spring training trip down at Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. You'll be down there for about a week or so, getting a handful of games in during that week. As soon as you come back, you start the conference schedule with defending champ and preseason poll picked #1, Leslie University. How do you think you'll be ready for that, or will you be ready for that?
I believe we will be ready for that. This week at practice, we've been practicing our first week of games up north. So we've scouted Leslie, we've scouted Utica, Williams, and Daniel Webster, and they're going to be prepared on how the team is going to beat us. Now we just have to execute our plan.
Now you mentioned, and actually you said it right in order, you know the schedule off the top of your head much better than I do looking at it. After Leslie, you got doubleheaders against Utica, at Williams, Daniel Webster comes in, SUNY Cobleskill then comes in. Your non-conference schedule, speak to that and how you think it prepares you in between conference games.
I think it is very good non-conference schedule. I mean, we have Williams, Nosek school, we have Utica, school that competes against Ithaca every year, SUNY Cobleskill. They will be stronger this year than they have in the past. Morrisville State, we have never played them. I'm interested to see how they will be, but I think it will be a good doubleheader for us. And then I believe we have MCLA, and we played them last year. I think we got let a couple games get away, but overall I think the balance is very good, and I think it will help us stay prepared for our NECC schedule.
The Mountaineers were selected to finish 9th out of 10 teams in the NECC coaches preseason poll. Can you speak to how either you or the team has reacted to that? Do they, take it into consideration at all, or do they say, oh, we were picked 9th, we're going to prove them wrong? Any kind of feelings like that after the poll was released?
Well, I can say the coaching staff is very hungry to prove that wrong, and the team, they're finding their way. So I believe that we will prove them wrong. We just have to find out what the team believes soon enough.
Very good, and we will find out soon enough. As we mentioned, you head down to spring training in a little over a week, and then you'll be here hosting Leslie University over at Willow Park in Bennington, March 24th, 1 and 3 o'clock start times there. Well, Coach Baker, we would like to thank you for coming on SVC Sports Weekly. We wish you and your team the best of luck this season, and hopefully we'll get you in another week to discuss some of your successes.
Thank you.
We'd like to thank you all for tuning in to SVC Sports Weekly. We will talk to you next week to wrap up some men's volleyball action from this week, and probably talk to Coach Gage again and get about his season opener, which is next Wednesday down at Emerson College. Thanks again. Go Mountaineers!